Fragments of silicon, now trading for fragments of boron at a special 10-to-1 rate.
Did you say sporon?
Boron.
Boron.
I had a tiny brain fart because I hadn't nailed down which element I was going to talk about trading.
I like Sporon.
Apparently, we make our own elements here.
I am Elemental Ogre, so.
All right. On that note, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam, and joining me as always is the regular crew, Ogre,
Working on that Sporon.
Galix,
Hello.
Petty Fan,
I live.
and Twilight.
Hello.
Like, all right. Well, let's get into the news. Ogre, why don't you lead us off this week?
Mega.
I'm like,
I mean, if that doesn't clue you in, I'm excited that Mega Man 11 got announced.
as am I. Like,
Honestly, going into that, I felt like they were going to announce some new game. That just felt like too much of a.
yeah,
They're doing something.
yeah,
Well,
that's
yeah, but I think some of the smart money was on. Oh, hey, look, it's a trade. It's a tie-in video game for the cartoon that's going to be terrible.
I'm like,
No,
I'll-
cartoons might not actually be terrible, but seriously.
yeah, I will say the anniversary video got depressing there at the end when.
Oh yeah, that was. I knew that was
Yeah.
going to happen too. It was
Yeah,
like,
like-
here comes the whole nothing for a few decades.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, here's Mega Man 10.
I didn't stumble. I said decades.
Indeed.
I like the one that just had Mega Man crossover, and it was like, even they hardly acknowledge that.
Or Mega Man Star Force. Like the actual developers are like, what was that one? Oh right, Star Force.
They couldn't remember the American name of it because in the Japanese it is Shooting Star Rock Man. But yeah.
Yeah, it was still a pretty unmemorable series.
Did that
Yeah.
anime
It's-
even complete in the US?
The anime
I don't think so.
anime didn't complete in
No.
Japan.
Oh.
Man,
Yeah,
damn. Anyway, besides Mega Man stuff, that's not even mentioning the Legacy collections coming to the Switch and X 1 through 8 coming to the various consoles as well,
yeah.
which makes me really want to get a Switch now. Damn it! But we finally put the license plate on the car the other day, so now it's quote unquote officially ours.
Hmm. Like, ooh, yes.
Recordings are going fine. We're pretty much almost done with Doom. Just, I would say, a couple more recordings to go, and then we'll pretty much be done.
Hmm. Yeah, just in time.
Yeah.
Rose.
Well, I mean, who doesn't like a good demon head smashing in for Christmas time? I mean, that's just tradition. Let's see. Anything else? Not much coming to mind right now, other than just Mega Man stuff. I mean, that's Mega Man stuff, so.
I imagine.
Huh?
I imagine another Mega Man game is probably sooner rather than later.
Well, see, the thing is we're starting to get into like 7, 8, and Mega Man and Base. 7, I'm good on,
Uh-huh.
but 8 and Mega Man and Base, we're really starting to get into stuff I have no clue about.
I don't know about 8, but Mega Man and Base, apparently the original version isn't terrible.
Like, the original version's really hard because It shows up in 8, but kind of really go backwards on a lot of conventions. Like 8 doesn't have energy tanks.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it does have that, but the game what I was most talking about is that the Game Boy Advance which is the one we got, is even worse because screen crunch.
Yeah. I suppose if you wanted to go chronologically, there would be another Mega Man in that mix, but that's up to you.
I think Mega Man and Base is like tentatively canon. I don't really know if they consider that at all
I
canon.
was talking more about Mega Man X, but
Well, that's its own separate series.
I know.
Not because I'm surprisingly hesitant on that one. I think it's because the story gets really bogged down around 4 and 5.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen until the PlayStation era.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
why
the SNES X games are fine.
Yeah.
So,
But let's see. Other than that, not a whole lot. So next person.
all right. Petty fan.
Still cleaning the house for getting DirecTV installed Friday. My sister, Monday we went to Best Buy to get my sister a Google Home Mini, though we might need to replace it Saturday because it's been having issues recognizing voices like it should. So that's gonna be fun. Other than that, just been kind of playing Persona 5 when I have time. I beat I guess I defeated the first palace for those of you who played the game. And I'm kind of getting ready to start exams.
Oh man, video games where you do school stuff.
Yeah. And then I believe after exam should be the next palace, but I'm not sure on that. I mean, logic would dictate, but this is also a Persona game we're talking about. So I guess I'm done.
All right. Twilight.
Well, like Ogre, I'm pretty thrilled about the Mega Man announcements. More so for the Mega Man X collection. I'm reserving judgment for 11. Besides those, been doing some Christmas shopping. Haven't finished that yet, but hopefully soon. And there's concerns about snow this weekend, since around here they can get especially treacherous when it's heavy.
I think it's less a matter of being more treacherous and more about people less being good at handling it.
Yeah. There's a hill I have to cross, so that's the worst part about it. Besides that, work has been good, and been playing the one game I have for the review this week, and that's about it.
All right, Galax, you're up.
Well, I'm finally back in my actual office space at work, although they haven't put everything else back together, so I'm sure the construction noises for that will be wonderful when I get around to it. I'm also excited about the Mega Man news, but I'm not going to go into too much more detail than we already have. Video game playing wise, I've been playing Mario Odyssey, and actually, you may remember a few years ago we reviewed a game called Moon Hunters. That came out on the Switch, so I picked it up on the Switch so I could try to maybe do co-op with my friend over Christmas break, but I've been playing that, and I'm still enjoying it, so that's good. Let's see. I don't really have a whole heck of a lot else.
All right, then.
I wish we were dealing with snow threats, but no, it's just seesawing back and forth between like just below freezing and low 50s.
Fun times, I'm sure. All right. Anything else?
I don't have anything off the top of my head.
All right. So moving on to me. Not sure if it's coming across in my voice, but I got sick. Like, upper respiratory infection. Yeah, it's not been fun. I'm like, it's getting better. I'm like, better than yesterday when I had to do an interview with my Throat gland swollen.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pang of misery. But, I'm taking a lot of cough medicine, and a lot of lozenges as well. So that seems to be helping. Like, hopefully I'll be over this by next week. I, yeah, mother's also sick. I think I caught this thing from her. So, it's, as I said yesterday, it's just a time to be sick, so to speak.
Yeah.
Let's see. Outside of that, she had to deal with an expired tag. Like, turns out she forgot to replace that on her car, so got pulled for it. Thankfully, it was just a warning. So, like, she said it was like the first time this has ever happened. Right? Well, first time for everything. No harm, no foul. Yeah, it's looking to be a very subdued Christmas. She hasn't had time to decorate, and it's like personally, I never liked Christmas decorating, so no Christmas decorations this year.
Hooray!
You're telling me, like,
Yeah, that sounds like the way to go.
It's like, well, it's just also the endless Christmas cheer. Like, it gets tiring, especially since it started before Thanksgiving this year. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, I started seeing commercials for Christmas like a few weeks before Thanksgiving. It's like, give us a break, guys. Pretty soon this is going to be starting the day after Christmas.
You mean the day after Halloween?
No, I mean the day after Christmas for next Christmas.
Oh God, no! Please, no! Why?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I think that'll about do it for. Actually, well, there is MSP updates, but we'll save that for the end of the program. So merrily we shall roll along into the interview portion of the broadcast, and joining us here this week, kind of at the last minute, is David Stanley of, well, I'm not sure you're part of Azuka or they're just publishing your game.
Yeah, Yakuza is publishing, and I'm just building the game as a sole entity.
Got it. Right. So we like to start things by inquiring how our guests got into the video game scene, both on a personal level and a professional level.
Oh, that's a great start. When I was about 5 years old, I came home one day and my dad had a new NES sitting in the bedroom. And I didn't really know anything about games at the time, but it came with Duck Hunt and Super Mario Brothers and Tetris. And I just fell in love. I fell in love with games, and it's been an obsession that has, it continues to this day. Naturally, as you get older, the new consoles are coming out, and I'm like, man, I kind of wanna do this. But at the time, there wasn't really anything available to me. So I get a little bit older, and I'm learning about RPG Maker. That was my first touch of video game development software. Even though it kind of held your hand, that was what I really needed. But even more years go by, and I'm doing freelance work, just as like an artist, illustrator, animator, and I'm doing all these things, and pretty much whatever I try, whatever I set my mind to, is going really well for me. Well enough to turn it into a hobby. But game development was always that one thing that kind of like snuck away from me because I had no programming experience, and honestly, it was kind of intimidating. So, I try and fail to learn programming one summer, and I give it one more shot. I do my research and I pick up Game Maker because the engine looks fantastic. There's a really strong community behind it, and there are tons of tutorials on YouTube. So I'm just like, I'm gonna put together a simple little platformer and just see if I can get the physics down, see if I can get the movement right, and just see how I feel about it. Maybe I can make my own little summertime game or something. And it that became Skull Attack, and here we are. Like it started as a practice project and turned into this, for me, a massive thing that's gaining a lot of traction, and I've met so many great new people because of it. So it was really cool and kind of random. I'm glad I took the chance.
platformer would you say this is?
Um, I've always just been calling it action adventure.
No.
I don't people.
We're getting a notice from the chat room that apparently they can't hear us. I'm like, how much audio did we lose?
I don't know. They should be able to hear us now.
Can you hear us? Okay, there's an echo.
I had the wrong setting. It should have sorted itself.
Yeah, I'm like, Twilight, did you hear sound?
Yeah, you're fine. Keep going.
All right. Good. All right, getting back. So, what kind of platformer would you say this is?
Yeah, so I've been calling it personally just an action adventure platformer. Personally, I didn't want to put any titles on it because I was like I just want to make a game that's fun. I've heard people kind of put their own titles on it, and I'm cool with all of it. But yeah, I've just been going with action platformer. I'm kind of like out of the loop in some of the terminology.
Well, I'm like, the term Metroidvania gets tossed around a lot.
It does.
It's like,
Yeah, and not that there's anything wrong with it if your game fits that profile, but yeah, I didn't want to like toss it into any box just to like create buzz in that way, like, ooh, a new Metroidvania or whatever. I just wanted it to be like, oh, this game looks awesome. I don't know what genre it should be called, but it looks great.
fair enough. Although, are there actual like platforming challenges, or is that just kind of part of the way
Yeah,
you move around?
there are platforming challenges. I've said for a long time now. Most of the time, your worst enemy will be the dungeon itself and how you traverse the terrain. There's a lot of things that will kill you, because the dungeon honestly wasn't built for comfort. It was built to keep people out or to protect something within. So there are things that will hurt enemies, and they will also hurt you too. And there's a lot of tight jumps, a lot of wall sliding, wall jumping, like very Super Meat Boy, but hopefully without all the rage.
Like, I'm like, I suppose you mean that in sort of pacing. 'Cause,
Yeah,
like,
when I would play Super Meat Boy, I really loved the game, and it directly influenced Skeletak in some ways, but I would get stuck in a room for so long, and I just could not get out. With Skeletak, it used to be a lot harder when I released the very first demo, sometime last year. It needed a lot of balancing, and people were getting stuck in like one room forever, and they couldn't progress. So it needed a lot of balancing there. I don't want it to be like this epic extreme challenge where like you can't even get out of this room. It just doesn't make sense to the story. Like, Scully lives here. Like, why can't he get out of this room? So I wanted to be challenging, but not, crazy impossible.
Not punishing.
yeah.
Right.
That's
Nobody
good to
wants to be
hear.
punished.
Yeah, it's like my personal preference is towards, not so much the ultra punishing platformers.
Yeah.
I played Super Meat Boy a fair bit
Mhm.
myself, and never really clicked with me because I enjoyed the flow and the quickness of everything, but rage-inducing difficulty, not my cup of tea.
Yeah, understandable. I had even added a third magic spell to help with the platforming. It's the air scroll, and it gives you a third jump on top of your double jump. So I really wanted to make this like, if you're having some trouble with the platforming, maybe go with the air scroll. If you're if you're getting like destroyed by early enemies, grab that cure scroll and have that extra boost of health when you need it.
Mm. And are those all the magic spells in the game?
There's one more. It's the fire spell, and it'll create. It's kind of a ranged attack, short range. a certain distance in front of you, a pillar of fire will appear, and it's pretty destructive and looks really cool. It was one of my favorites for a long time to use.
Right now, in terms of move sets, how much does Scully have at the start, and how much does he have to, I suppose, unlock as the game progresses?
Gotcha. I kept it pretty simple, with this being my first game, but Scully has his sword and his insane jumping ability and wall sliding, but his sword is really where he makes things happen. Along the way, you'll be able to get sword upgrades from the blacksmith, and this will increase your base damage, and you can also get an upgrade that will increase your base damage as well as your critical hit damage pretty drastically. So as long as you're managing your coins well, when you get to the blacksmith later on in the game, you'll be able to buy some pretty cool stuff. But yeah, I kept his attack, like, he's got a jump attack and an on the ground attack. They both do the same amount of damage. The only difference is, animations. I've given Scully like 4 animations, I believe, and they're all chosen randomly when you just stand on the ground and do your sword attack. It's just another
that's like a fun touch.
Yeah. Like totally not needed, but in my mind, it was needed. Like I really enjoy these little touches where you're just not staring at the exact same slicing animation for 3 hours, because you're going to be looking at Scully so much. I wanted to make him as interesting as I can.
Understandable given the circumstances.
Yeah.
On that note, is he going to be able to wear like costumes or anything like that?
Unfortunately not. The way that I designed him, it's not really going to work well for me to like put clothes or a hat or a mask or any sort of clothing on him. It was just kind of an oversight when I began the game, but maybe in a future project I'd be able to have more customization options, because I love being able to customize things, and I had a lot of people ask if there would be any unlockables for Scully, and it hurts to say no, but I didn't want to like bite off more than I could chew with this project.
No, that's understandable. Keeping things manageable is certainly paramount.
Right.
I mean, this way you won't have to mortgage your house to get the game done.
Exactly. Yeah, that was one of the big things for me. When people do crowdfunding successfully, I'm so happy for them. But when it fails, you really have to. It's kind of a blow. And I just wanted to be sure with Skeletak that I didn't have to ask for money from anybody until I felt like the game was ready to release, and that has stayed true. So I'm really happy about that. I'll be able to see this game through to release and not need money from people to continue the development of it.
Yeah, it's a never increasingly important topic in today's world, because I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the indie-pocalypse.
Yeah.
Basically because there are so many games getting released these days,
right?
Especially on like Steam, it's hard for indie game to stand out.
Yeah, it really is. And I think where some developers can go wrong is thinking that like the bigger the game, the more it's going to stand out and the better the response is. Like if you hear that a new indie dev is coming up and he's making like this, massive open world experience with crafting and dragons and whatever else, like, I mean, that certainly sounds super cool, but depending on the size of your team, it might collapse your studio under its own weight.
Yeah. Or it might take like Owlboy. That took about 8 years to come out?
Yeah, 8 years, I believe.
Or like what the developers of Cuphead went through, where if they failed, then they would probably going to be homeless.
Yeah, it is possible for games like that to end up well. It's just, I wouldn't want to risk it.
There are quite a few horror stories of games like that not ending well.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a sad thing to see. It's a good cautionary tale when I was like just first getting into Game Maker. You know, when I was younger and not actually programming anything, all I wanted to do was make an RPG. I think that's what everyone wants to do first when they get into game dev. They're like, Final Fantasy was so cool. I want to make a game like that. And even in Skeletak, there's so much crazy stuff going on under the hood that you guys aren't going to see, but I have to think about and like control and debug and break and fix and break again. I could not imagine doing an RPG. I'm pretty sure at this point I never will, and I'll be happy like doing simpler games, I think.
I'm like, as a one-man dev team, definitely.
Oh yeah.
Or, I suppose I should ask to the extent of how much of this was developed solely by you. Was it all aspects, or I'm suspecting the music was developed by someone else.
That's right. The music was done by a good friend of mine, Jamal Green. He is fantastic, and everything that he sends me is just gold. I've been so happy to work with him. But yeah, everything else is done by me. The art, animation, any illustrations in the background, all the programming. I've gotten a lot of help from my publisher, Yakuza. Just they're like fantastic bug hunters, and they've had a lot of great ideas about features I could add to the game. So I got to give credit to them. But yeah, it's been a long 2-year plus project, just working by myself mostly, and just seeing if this thing was going to be worth it, and it totally is.
I'm like, it seems to be coming together well. Pettyfan, you've been playing the demo for the viewers. What's your impression so far?
It's kind of interesting. I'd like to see like where more of this goes in like its final state.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I'm adding to the game that you're not going to see in this demo, and I'm so excited to talk about it. But some things are still, we're still keeping them under wraps for now. But yeah, I'm really aiming to make this not just a hack and slash action game, but a lot of world building, I guess, and lore to read. A lot of, like, if you just wanted to chill and do a little bit of reading and learn more about why things are the way they are, the history of the dungeon, some funny anecdotes from people's diaries who live in the dungeon, stuff like that. There's a lot of fun things to collect and read, and I wanted to like kind of have it as a palate cleanser. Maybe I can fulfill the action, swordplay fans, and also make people happy who just really enjoy like hanging around talking to NPCs and collecting books and hanging around the library, stuff like that.
Right. So how fleshed out is this compared to the initial demo version?
Like the version you're playing now, you mean?
I mean the first version.
Oh, the very first version. Gosh, there was only one area you could run around in. There were not any NPCs. I think there was one NPC in the very first room, and I didn't have any more. There was no no real dialogue, because at the time I was like really bad at doing text boxes, and I didn't want anyone to know. So I kind of like hid the fact that I didn't know how to do it. But now I understand how to do it better. Let's see. Yeah, there was. Oh yeah, there's a dungeon hub in this demo that you're playing now, which I'm so proud of. It leads to every other level in the game as you unlock the areas. It's got your library. It's got your blacksmith where you can buy your upgrades. It's got your magic spells laid out in case you want to swap one out between levels. That was huge for me. But yeah, the initial demo was way harder, way less balanced. People were running out of money. People were running out of magic, and they had no real way of replenishing it, and it made the rest of the demo a lot harder. The music was like some royalty free stuff I had grabbed, and like it was kind of a mess in some ways, but it had potential. People were responding well to it, even though it wasn't the prettiest thing or the easiest thing to play. But I got a lot of great feedback on it, and people were finding like massive amounts of bugs, which I knew was going to happen. And I was so happy that it did, because I can't find all this stuff myself. Like, I thought I could, but you cannot find every bug on your own as a solo developer.
I think we had a conversation about that not too long ago, where
Yeah.
it's like, and it's not just a single person. Like any indie dev studio is gonna
Yeah.
have an issue.
Yeah, and some of it's like really stupid things where you're so close to the project, you know how things need to be done. You know what buttons you need to press on which screen. And some of them was like, I remember I had this weird bug way back. If you pressed start on the main menu instead of the X button or the enter key on your keyboard, the game would think it was trying to pause and it would crash. And I was just like, well, I knew I was supposed to press enter on the keyboard. Why are people pressing, the pause key? And it was just a really stupid oversight, and like a super easy fix, but just one of those things you overlook.
How was I supposed to know slapping against a certain wall and jumping 3 times would make you go out of bounds? Stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty wild to see what people are finding. I think you have to have a certain mindset for it. Like, when people find this stuff, they're not bashing your game necessarily, or calling you out for being a bad developer. But sometimes people can take it that way. But I've worked really hard to like stay positive with my community, and always be like thankful and grateful and cool to them, because they will be cool to you right back, and that's certainly been true.
That's good to hear. Right. So, what state of completion is the game right now, and how much more do you have to go?
Man, it is getting close. The end is in sight. We've kept really good track, between myself and Yakuza, like what things need to be addressed. We keep a pretty well updated list going at all times, and there's really not much more left. The game is feature complete. It's got all the areas set up. I'm finishing laying out some enemies in the final area, but it's mostly like odds and ends now. Just fixing something in one of the menus, like adding an animation for this thing that I have been putting off, fixing a sprite that doesn't look as good as it could. Just, random little things like this, which I'm so happy to be at the point where I can say the game is almost done. It's been a long ride, but the community's like had my back the whole way, and it's as much a victory for me as it is for them.
Sounds like it. And how did you attract the attention of Yakuza?
That was a weird story. I was, it was a few builds of the demo before the one you've got now. I had tried to update it as much as I could and get it nice and polished, and I was like, all right, it's summertime. I'm ready to shop around for some publisher attention. And I sent out a bunch of emails, and I was getting some rejection letters, as you should. You're not going to like hit it out of the park on your first attempt. And in the meantime, this account followed me on Twitter. It was the Yakuza account. I had no idea who they were at the time, but I checked out their website, and I was like, oh, sweet, they're an indie publisher. They're new. They're looking to publish their first game. Anyway, I DM'd them, and I'm like, hey, thanks for all the support you've given to Skeletac. I'm actually looking for publisher support right now, so if you're cool, I would love to pitch to you guys in the next couple of days. And they wrote back, and they were like, we were actually about to write to you because we are really interested in Skeletac. You kind of beat us to the punch. So it was just this funny thing where, like, I was sending out all these emails, but my one true love was like right there the whole time. And it's been a really good relationship with them ever since. They've helped me do so much that I wouldn't have been able to do on my own. I was like flip-flopping for a couple of weeks, earlier this year. Like, do I want and need a publisher? Like, do you know, do I want to like share the money that I make from my game with another entity? And then I was like, well, if I release this thing by myself and don't have a massive fan base and no one really hears about it, I'm not really going to make any money anyway. And also, a third point, I don't really care about the money. I have a day job. I just want the game to see as many players as possible. And going with a publisher was the way to do it.
It is one of many methods to get your game out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not the method. It just happens to be what worked for me. I wouldn't
Right.
say everyone has to do it.
No. Like, I know plenty of indie developers that hire PR firms.
Right.
Right. Or use services like Keymailer or terminals.
And that's what's great. Like, there's just so many ways to achieve similar goals, and that's what I like about game dev in general. There's typically not just one way to achieve something when I'm working on a game. So it's just really cool to have all these options available to us.
No doubt. I mean, even the big publishers have avenues like the Square Enix Collective.
Oh, that's right.
I'm trying to think of what EA calls its indie publishing thing, but they like the EA Vault or something like that.
I didn't even know EA had indie publishing. That's cool.
Yeah. It's not very big. Like Faye and Get Out are the two projects under that banner.
Oh, okay.
But they do have, and I think Unravel was also under that as well. Like,
Nice.
But yeah, they do exist.
Yeah, that's cool. I like seeing these bigger entities having a better relationship with indie developers. I think they realize there's something pretty big happening here.
Indeed. So, in terms of platforms, what are you aiming for here? Just the PC, or is it going to be Mac and Linux as well?
Gotcha. Yeah, we're gonna do PC, Mac, and Linux for sure on Steam, and we're also confirmed for Xbox One. That's something I never thought I would say, a couple of years ago, or even like a couple of months ago. We are also looking into PlayStation 4, but we'll talk more about that as the news appears.
I suppose Nintendo Switch.
It would be nice, but unfortunately not. With Game Maker, there is no export option to anything Nintendo currently. They get a lot of requests for it, and I know they're tired of hearing about it, but to get Skeletak on the Switch right now, it would essentially require me to program it from scratch in like Unity, which can export to Nintendo consoles. And some days I feel lucky enough that I got the game working once. I don't really want to build it twice.
So this would be one of those, if you want to put on a Switch, you'd probably be asking like a porting house or something like that.
Yeah, I would have to put up some money to get someone to do it. And I mean, down the road, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe Skeletak really strikes a chord with people, and I can retire forever. But no plans for the Switch on this game. I would love to do it in the future. I've been a huge Nintendo fan since I was in kindergarten, as I mentioned earlier. So that would be super cool, but probably not with Skeletak.
Unfortunate, but
Yeah.
Any sort of price points?
Yeah, it's we've been talking internally about this. There's this thing happening where indies are charging too little for their games. There's kind of a sweet spot that we're looking to hit. it'll certainly be less than $20, but I don't think there's a price that we're ready to announce yet. Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing where you see indies putting up a game that they worked on for a couple of years in some cases, and it's like, you know, it's like immediately on sale when it hits the store, for like, you know, for $4.50 or something. It's kind of, it depends on the game, but we really believe in what Skeletack's got going for it.
Yeah, that was mainly a subset of the Steam sale mentality.
Yeah,
It's like back when like flash sales used to be a thing and
mm-hmm.
such. There was a real race to the bottom mentality going on, and
Yeah, and it's like it's hitting even more of a low in the mobile market. It's like people cannot be asked to pay 99 cents to download your game. Like they just don't want to do it. And it's, you know, I don't want to do it either. Like I don't think I've ever bought a mobile game, but it's just so strange how things go and how indies just feel like they need to cater to, oh, mine's cheaper than yours, it's going to sell better. I don't really believe in that.
yeah, there's a lot of variables involved.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to see if my colleagues have any other questions for you.
Sure.
I don't have any.
I don't have too much. It's kind of a shame that I guess it's your engine isn't particularly Nintendo friendly, because this looks like it would be a fun game on the Switch, and the Switch is a pretty good environment right now.
Yeah. It's so cool to see. Like I said, you know, Nintendo and all these other companies just embracing indies. I love Nintendo's way of designing characters and just building these really cute, fun experiences, and that was something I thought a lot about when I was making Skeletack. And yeah, it sucks that it can't be in the cards this time. There was just so much I didn't know I would want to think about, you know, 2 years ago. So I was just like, yeah, Game Maker is fine. And I do love it, but yeah, the Nintendo thing is like, I wish.
Of course, if an update comes out, unless you port to Switch.
Yeah, I would certainly be looking at that. I'll give you guys a call.
Indeed. Oh. Nintendo, unfortunate aside, I'm certainly looking forward to playing the complete Skeletack.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, hopefully we can review it for the show here when it comes out. I believe it has a release date, actually.
Yeah, January 19th, 2018.
Yeah.
It's coming fast.
Yeah, we'll probably
Cue the
be...
existential dread.
Yeah, seriously. Man,
yeah.
I'm in a great mood talking to you guys, but yeah, earlier this week I've just been like, somebody kill me.
Yeah. We'll certainly be in contact when the game comes out.
Great. Yeah, if you guys want to hook up again and you know, do like a follow-up interview or whatever you want, I'm always happy to chat. I love talking about my game.
No doubt. We'll probably just ask for the game. We tend not to do repeat interviews on the same project because, you know, there's not a lot to do twice.
Yeah, I'll be like, I'll be saying a lot of the same things probably.
So it's just easier to have our thoughts on the completed project. Anyway,
yeah, man, sounds good.
Yeah. Anyway, with that in mind, look for Skeletack in early January 19th, 2018 on Steam for PC, Mac, and Linux. That's about 6 weeks away. And Petty Fan, play us to the next section.
One of those was right.
Gotta love when the music thing breaks on you.
Uh, well, not the worst we've ever had.
Hmm.
Like, also, Mac's not here to throttle this, so
Let's just never tell him about that happening, and we're fine.
pretty much. Anyway,
Mhm.
so welcome to the topic of discussion. So this week we're stepping out of our usual bounds to talk about something a bit bigger, so to speak, and that is net neutrality. Like, it's not something I wanted to be talking about. It's something I at one time thought we were done talking about, but um, Republicans. Like,
Well, it's also big in the sense that depending on how it goes, we may not have a show anymore.
I don't think it's going to get that bad. Like,
It depends.
well, anyway, right. So where to start with this? You know, I guess we should start with what net neutrality actually is. Um, Contrary to what you might have heard out there, like it's not it's not a bad thing. Okay, in fact, it's the thing that the neutrality part is all data has to be treated equal, basically. You know, big or small, no matter where it comes from, it has to have equal access. And what several entities, namely the likes of Comcast, Verizon, AT&T, what have you, want to do is they want to kill this so they can charge more. Um, they can charge, say, Netflix more money for access,
Or
or else they'll
charge
slow.
you more money to access Netflix.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's like they'll slow, throttle, block, um, do all sorts of unscrupulous shit. Um, and this has actually been a very, very long fight. And the reason why we're speaking about it now is because we're having another culmination. On December 14th, the FCC is planning to hold a final vote on this, and all indications indicate that this is net neutrality is going to die here, or at least the rules will be repealed. To say that they're going to die on December 14th is a bit premature.
Yeah, we
Uh,
already have people with injunctions ready to go.
yeah, I'm like, especially the process. The FCC has not had a smooth one. Uh, they had a public comments initiative back in the spring, I think, and there was a lot of
It got flooded with
fraudulent.
yeah.
There was a lot of fraudulent comments, like in the hundreds of thousands, I think. And
Well, and there's a combination of that, and also just they don't like and had a hard time reacting to, I guess, some of the form letters too,
yeah, that's another thing. But
which is partially an excuse, but partially, I mean, I guess.
yeah, more pertinent to the conversation are the fake comments, because there are, like, for example, the New York's Attorney General is investigating the fake comments because some people from New York had their identities used for these comments. I'm like, yeah, you kind of see that there's going to be lawsuits over this. I'm like, and the whole fake comments thing is going to be a big bulwark.
Hmm.
You know,
Well, and also for something like this, the FCC has to have reason to do it.
hmm and the current rules are only 2 years old.
Hmm.
There was a law passed in the 50s that that was basically a protection against, one administration does one thing, a new administration comes in and just changes everything. Now, and this is in regards to like communications, by the way,
Hmm.
because we've had a lot of reversals in rules, but that's outside of the scope of this show, right? But what? Um, so on that note, it's not over,
Hmm.
And right, the question that might be coming up is, what can you do about it? And the answer is not nothing. I'm like, there are things you can do right now. I'm like,
Let's find the website, shall we?
no, it's more. I got the websites right here.
Hmm.
Battlefortheinternet.com. You can use this to contact your your local lawmakers, and mention your stances on neutrality. How effective that's going to be kind of depends on your lawmaker.
Mm-hmm.
I'll admit. Let's just say I use this, and my local lawmakers are more than useless.
Yeah, I think mine basically aren't taking any calls on the issue.
Well, it's like I actually got responses back, and oh boy,
Yeah.
I'm like, let's just say they were very bad responses to the issue in question, both from the senator and the local representative.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most lawmakers seem to have their minds made up on this. So
Well,
it's
the
like,
sad thing is a lot of them are old fogies who don't know how the internet works.
well,
They
it's like
don't
the senator. The senator that my letter went to was Marco Rubio.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
Yes. You see the problem here.
Yeah, like a lot of them don't realize that if the internet was its own country, it'd literally have the biggest GDP on the planet. They just think it's a mass of cat videos.
Yeah. It's like the response I got back was, blah, 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 restoring freedom, blah, 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 government regulation, blah. It's just...
Even though what they're doing would actually be taking away freedom specifically to rural areas.
Among other things, Though, also don't expect that, like, things may change overnight, but here's the thing. It's going to be a gradual process. Like, this shit gets repealed. Like, they're not going to all of a sudden hit the internet fast lanes the next day.
That actually depends, because places who have internet competition won't seem much different, but places like me where I only have one ISP, they could overnight flip this shit and there's nothing I could do.
Well, even then, indications seem they're probably going to play the long game, because this shit shows up the next day. People are going to it's going to be that much more fuel to the opposing fire, but it comes in gradually over the course of 6 months, a year, what have you, and there's going to be less resistance. It's more subtle, more insidious. You see what I'm saying?
And then you're paying $5 just to access Twitter.
Yeah. And different companies are probably going to do different things. Like, my cable company rarely, if ever, has entered into the discussion. Like, I haven't heard anything about Charter doing anything. So
I haven't heard anything about Suddenlink, but at the same time, I have no trust in that company whatsoever.
It's pretty much
literally, if they weren't the only ISP here, I would have dropped them in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I'm not gonna trust Time Warner or Spectrum as far as I can throw their equipment out in the courts. So.
Yeah. So the other thing you can do is tomorrow, as of this recording, there will be protests.
There will be large protests.
Yes. There will be protests at Verizon stores nationwide. You can check the site verizonprotest.com to see where the local Verizon store in your area is, and you can go join. Yeah, and then there's going to be another protest, the Break the Internet protest, happening next Tuesday.
I will add, though, if you're actually going to do the protest, make sure you don't actually break any laws. Like, be
Mhm.
civil, don't punch anybody, don't break things.
Yeah. Don't give them cause to charge you with a felony.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
don't make them think we're just a bunch of hooligans. We actually have class on the internet, even if some forums don't show it.
Yeah.
Forons.
Forums. I can
I know.
speak. English
I know.
is my
the other
first
element I'm
language.
working on.
Yeah. I'm like, and as far as impact goes, it's really hard to say how big this is going to be. I mean, some people have said it's going to be the end of the open internet. It's going to be the end of the internet forever. I don't know. Here's the thing. We've never been at this particular point. But
I don't know. It feels like it's just exhausting, but it feels like we've always been this close to having net neutrality repealed, and it's just this time there's no one in power that's against it.
Mm-hmm.
well, like I said, this has actually been a very long fight. In fact, net neutrality got repealed twice. Most famously in 2013, when it got struck down by, I don't want to say the Supreme Court, but it got struck down in court. And that was Title I's protection. And that's the whole thing that led us down to the current Title II protections.
Mm-hmm.
And to compound the insidiousness, this part hasn't come up a lot, but what the FCC wants to do is not only repeal net neutrality entirely, but they want to force states to not adopt net neutrality themselves.
Yeah.
I'm like, there is a whole host of issues with that one in and of itself.
Yeah, you can tell somebody's clearly, in the pocket of big internet.
Well, I mean, Aji Pai is a former Verizon lawyer or a Verizon employee. So he worked for Verizon in some capacity before becoming part of the FCC.
Mm-hmm.
So, granted, the previous commissioner, Tom Wheeler, was also, I think, a lobbyist for, I forget which media company it was, and
Something lobbyist politician complex.
yeah, actually, he turned out to be not what we expected.
Yeah,
Although-
we actually made him flip pretty hard.
Mm-hmm. Aji he has been less flexible. I'm like, in fact, he's been quite childish recently. Like, devolving into downright name calling, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, he's been unbecoming of the office.
Yeah.
Go figure.
I'm like,
That's a general theme for this time around. So
I'm laughing, but I'm crying on the inside. Thanks, Ogre.
save it for the other show. Yeah. But, like I said, the fight continues. Like, probably not going to be the last time we revisit this topic.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, the stage definitely looks to be set for what's going to happen in the immediate future. But I'm like, things could change. But it's been the prevailing wisdom for about a year now that this issue is going to end up being fought in court. Like, how high that goes is hard to say. Maybe the Supreme Court, maybe not. But, certainly I would expect several lawsuits at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Not just, say, freedom of speech issues, but, like I said, that whole...
Adam?
What?
You cut out really bad there for a second.
Oh, not sure what happened there. Where did I cut? Oh, anyway, we'll see what develops in the coming days till December 14th.
Yep.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anything else we want to say on this subject?
Again, be civil with the protests. Don't hurt anybody, and don't get yourselves hurt.
Yeah.
All right then. All right, so that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. Let's see. So MSP. Here's the update on MSP. There is no MSP this week. We will be having 2 more shows, possibly with guests. But the season 13 will be ending 2 shows from now, and season 14 will be starting up in January. Not sure when in January. Mac didn't specify.
Presumably fairly early January.
Yeah, but he's going to have to specify, for guest purposes. But that's what we know right now. As far as Fragments of Silicon goes, the week ahead. So on Sunday we have reviews of Killer is Dead Nightmare Edition, which was put up for free recently on the Humble Bundle. Did everyone pick that up?
I'm pretty sure I did, and oh boy, that sounds like something I'm going to enjoy playing.
It's one game, so
Yeah, you can tell.
right. And we'll be reviewing also Illville Return Instructions. This is a game I got a couple weeks ago, and it's a game, all right. That doesn't pretend good things. Anyway, coming up next week, let me see here. On Tuesday, December 12th, yes, we do have it. Our last Tuesday show of the broadcast season. Not that is the season of this year. Our Fragments of Silicon season doesn't end until early February. Anyway, we'll be having Andreas Iles of Porygon LLC. He's the developer of Computer Tycoon. Contrary to its name, it is not a typical tycoon simulator. It is a grand strategy title.
Well, it kind of makes sense considering it would be rather difficult to, build your own computers and, invite programs to come in and see how much money they spend at different things.
I was gonna say, did you know anything of the Silicon Valley wars of the late '80s? Yeah.
Oh no, I'm talking more about the exact specifics of, say, Theme Park Tycoon.
Yeah, no, the Silicon Valley was basically grand strategy back in the old days.
I'm to Silicon Valley. Go track that down.
Yes, please, go. Good watch.
Sorry. And on Wednesday, December 13th, we might be having my old friend Dean Dodrill of Humble Hearts on the program. I say might because he might have to delay his appearance due to things I cannot go on about on air at this point.
Roger, Witness Protection Program.
Yeah, he's told me what's the issue, but he doesn't want the issue on air.
Fair enough. I'll just joke about it slightly.
Yeah, and like I said, I still haven't received a firm go-ahead either way. And hopefully I'll have an update on that on Sunday. So until then, I wish you good gaming.